Okay, you're live.
Okay, so I have some questions here. Excuse me, I have a little bit of a cold, so bear with me. So I got a question here. Would anyone know what happened to Bobby DeSimone? Bobby DeSimone was Tommy's brother. He was my father's co-defendant, living in Florida. He went to prison on my father's case. I lost touch with him many years ago. As far as I know, he's still alive, probably still living in Florida. But I lost contact with him many years ago, and I want to know who is in touch with him at this point. But he was a good guy. He was a nice guy. Very tight with my father and very tight with Tommy A, unfortunately. Why does it with all you gangsters wanting to do movies? Why not? Why not? Why not? Let's see what else. Table in the back, part 2. When you started to talk about Bobby Glasses, it cut off. Is there going to be a part 3? Would be cool to hear more about Bobby. Yeah, I believe so. You know, Bobby Glasses, you know, I go back a long way with him, you know, from the 70s when he first came around. He was around Jojo Carrazza. You know, he was a good guy back then. You know, unfortunately, he was involved in the Shamrock murders with Frankie Guiche. And I testified at his trial many years later, which he got convicted on. He actually died in prison. So that's, you know, that's the nature of the beast with the mob, you know. Yeah, we'll probably talk more about that. If you have to ask me questions about that, I'll be glad to answer them. Have I considered doing a video on Mark Ritter? That's a good question. You know, I should do a video on Mark Ritter. You know, he was a big heroin dealer. I knew him pretty good. You know, I knew his son, unfortunately. Tommy Karate killed his son. I used to do business with his son with the vending. He was a nice guy, a lot of money, big heroin dealer. Very sharp guy, always well-dressed, beautiful woman, big earner, big heroin earner. Made a lot of money. Unfortunately, he's been in prison many years. I think he's trying to get out now on a compassionate release, which he should, but dangerous guy, you know, no joke. No joke. I could do a show on him. I think I may. The Ernest you guys are talking about is Ernest Grillo. Yes, it is. It's Ernest Grillo. That's who Sammy and I were talking about in episode 2, I believe. Yes, that was Ernest Grillo. Yeah, who's still active, still out there. Did I know Joe the Barber? Yeah, that was Joe the Barber. That was father and sons. That was Frankie Tito's father, I think. That was his first barbershop on Atlantic Avenue. That was near 88th Street Park. If that's what you're talking about, yeah, sure, I knew him. Did my father ever mention anything about Sal Polisi? You know, Sal Polisi, I know him all my life. Him and I share a nephew together. You know, he's out there now again. He's getting active on YouTube. You know, he says a lot of stuff. You know, some of it's true. I don't know. You know, I have mixed feelings about Sal Polisi. You know, I don't really want to. I don't know what to say about him. You know, he says some things that rub me the wrong way, especially pertaining to my father. There's some it's not, you know, an incident that happened with him and my father. You know, he talks about it, and like, you know, his version is not the whole true version. It really upset my family what he said, because it really wasn't true. But you know, he was a thief. You know, he was a drug dealer. He was a hijacker. You know, he hung out with Dom Cataldo. That's so true. He knew everybody. Everybody knew him. He had a club on the 87th Street called the Sinatra Club. You know, he's got some good stories to tell. You know, he's not a bad guy. You know, I always got along with him. He always treated me well. You know, I knew. You know, like I said, our families are were very close. So yeah. My father didn't have to mention him because we all knew my father. You know, we all knew him. Who was the confidential informant that told about the apartment upstairs from the Ravenite? Was it Mikey Scars? No, it definitely wasn't Mikey Scars. Mikey Scars wasn't cooperating at that time. Mikey Scars cooperated years later. We all cooperated years later after that, after John and Sammy and Frankie went to prison. That was a confidential informant. I don't think anybody ever really found out who that person was that told them that, but it had to be someone that hung out in there on a daily basis that told them John was going upstairs because there was a back door in the Ravenite. So, you know, that's for sure. Joey Molina's podcast. I love how much you love John Gotti and how well he treated you. Would you have cooperated against Gotti? You know, I think if John was alive, my father was alive, I know for sure if my father was alive or Tony Lee, I definitely wouldn't have cooperated. And I probably wouldn't have cooperated against John either. You know, any one of those three guys, I couldn't face them. You know, I couldn't have done it. You know, no, I wouldn't have. Not against any of those three. I don't think I would have done that.
All right, I'm reading it to you. How well did you know Michael Franzese back in the day?
I didn't know him that well. I mean, I knew of him. We knew each other. We ran into each other. He used to come to the gold store to see my father and Tony Lee on numerous occasions. You know, I never hung out with him back then, but, you know, we ran across each other. We spent a little time together, but I knew his father better than him. I would say that. I was closer to his father than him. But yeah, but we knew of each other, and we did hang out here and there with each other.
Could you comment on the Jets and Aaron Rodgers?
Comment on the Jets and Aaron Rodgers? What is there to say? It's a shame. It's terrible. I mean, he's out for the season. The Jets gave the guy millions and millions of dollars. They gave up all these draft picks. They lost now. They got no quarterback, no draft picks. They're out all kinds of tens of millions of dollars. It's a tragedy. It's terrible. And it's a shame because the Jets got a really nice team.
Did you ever hear about Ray Argentina with the Lucchese's?
Did I ever hear about Ray Argentina? Definitely. I know Ray good. I mean, I know him from the street. I was in prison with him in Schuylkill. He was in prison with my father. I know him well. I know him from before he got straightened out. Dangerous guy. He was one of the shooters that killed Tito the Barber, the guy that killed Jimmy Burke's son, Frankie. He was the shooter. I think he just got out of prison now after doing about 18 years. Very dangerous human being. Did I ever know Phil Linetti from Philadelphia? No, I didn't know Phil Linetti. I never met him. He cooperated. When I started going out to Philly, he was already cooperating. So I never met him.
What do you think about the Hunter Biden indictment?
It's about time something's happening. I mean, he got indicted for guns. I mean, come on, there's so many things that he could get indicted for. They're letting the statute of limitation run out on stuff. I mean, it's all a joke. So Roger Baker sending me love from Kentucky. I'm sending it back, Roger. Thanks for tuning in. So there's a question from Jim Beam. How hot was it when you were in Arizona? Would say it was hot. It was like 110 degrees, but it was a different kind of heat. There was no humidity. It was just hot, but it was different than Florida. Florida, if it was 110, you just stand outside and sweat. You would be soaking wet. There, even though it was 100 and something degrees, you didn't even crack a sweat. It was just really hot, very hot. So it says here, without being biased, can you give your opinion on how the Italians took over the streets from the Irish Americans? I think the Italians took over and organized everything back in the day because they were organized. They were smart. They were very street smart, and they were very well organized and structured, and they took over. And they had killers and shooters, and they, and they got everybody in line. So they took over like the Roman Empire. Can anyone just walk into the Ravenite and get a drink? No, there was no strangers coming into the Ravenite. That they would have been asked to leave. I never saw a stranger coming off the street and going there. Not when I was in there. I never saw that happen. I mean, during the feast, when Neil had the St. Gennaro feast extended, because in the beginning, when I first started going to the Ravenite, the feast ended a block up from the Ravenite, and then Neil had them extended so we could get stands, on the block, and when that happened, so there would be strangers sitting outside having coffee and stuff, but that's about it. But nobody was just walking in off the street. That ain't happening. That ain't happening. Was it called 101st Street or Jerome Avenue? It was called Jerome Avenue when I was a kid. That's a good question. Yeah, it was called Jerome Avenue when I was a kid. Then it changed to 101st Avenue. It was Jerome Avenue, went all the way down into City Line, and there was a train now actually in City Line that they knocked down. When I was a little kid, there was a train now that was knocked down a couple of years later. I don't know any funny stories about Ray DeMayo. Sorry about that. I don't know any funny stories. Did I ever hear of Willie Messino from Chicago? No. I mean, my family knew people out of Chicago. When I got married in '77, I got some envelopes from Chicago, but that's about it. Was there really a Billy Batch? Yeah, that's a good question. People ask me if he was straightened out or not. I really don't remember him. I don't really remember him that much. He was in prison, and then he got out of prison and he disappeared, and he got killed, allegedly by Tommy, but I really don't know much about him. Did I ever had any interaction with the Patricia family out of Boston? Yeah, my father did. I did. My cousin was a jockey up there at Suffolk Downs, and he got into some trouble up there. And my father had to go up there and straighten it out for my cousin. He had to go sit down up there. So we had some interaction with them in that sense. And I used to work. I used to fly up to Suffolk Downs with the Big E's back in the day, and we used to do some business with his crew up there too. Over that. So yeah, we did have some interaction with them. Did my father ever know little Nicky Scoffa? Yeah, he did. My father was good friends with him. My father used to hang out with him in Atlantic City before the casinos at the 500 Club. I met him there a couple of times in the 70s. So yeah, my father did know him. My father knew him pretty good. Did John Gotti ever have a nickname other than what the newspapers gave him? No, I mean, his family would call him Junior. I heard them call him Junior a couple of times, like his brothers. But that's about it. I don't know of any other nicknames he had outside of the Dapper Don and the Teflon Don and all that other stuff. Did anybody ever call my father Fat Andy to his face? Not really, but he didn't. He liked it. He didn't care about the nickname. It didn't faze him at all. I mean, he knew that was his nickname, and and he was fine with people using it, referring to him as "I'm with Fat Andy." He had no issues with it. He wasn't plexed up about his weight at all. No, he had no issue with it. Scott H asked, do I know Larry Mezza? Yeah, I know Larry Mezza well. I did Larry Mezza's show about 2 years ago in LA. Yeah, it's on Mob TV. Check it out. It's on it's on that app. Yeah, I did a show. He's a good guy, nice guy. Yeah, we had a good time. The show was really well. It's a well done interview. You should check it out. What did I do with the money I made? Hey, that's a good question. What did I do? It's gone. What did I do? I spent it. I used it. Lawyers. I partying. Just living life. I was in prison them 8 years. I wasn't making no money when I was in prison. It just went. It went. When you make a money like that in the street, when money's coming in really fast, you think it's never going to end. You spending it as fast as you're getting it. It's not that I have bad habits. I just love to spend money, and that's what, and it all went. It all went. Did my father meet Angelo Bruno from Philly? I can't answer that question. I don't think he did. I don't know. Maybe he did. Maybe he didn't. Is it possible that Jimmy Burke got Tommy DeSimone killed because he was killing everybody? No, definitely not. They were tight. Tommy was killing the guys from Lufthansa with Jimmy Burke. They were in cahoots with each other. I don't believe that for a minute, that Jimmy Burke had anything to do with Tommy and DeSimone getting killed. Did my father have any business in Flushing, Queens? Yeah, my father had a club. My father had an after-hour club in Flushing for years on, what was Stillwell Avenue, maybe? Not Stillwell Avenue. I forgot, but he had it there for a while. He was partners with some Greek guys up there that had a really nice after-hour joint for years. My father was in Florida when Meyer Lansky was still alive, and he knew him. Meyer Lansky's family used to come to my father's restaurant for dinner, so my father didn't know Meyer Lansky and didn't meet him once or twice in Florida, but he never did anything with him. David asked, will I do more on location shows? The stories will be even fascinating. Yeah, we're planning some of that. I'm planning a couple of trips. We're going to do some location shots. I'm planning on coming up to New York the end of September. I'm going to do some on location stuff in Manhattan. So I'm looking forward to that. We're also trying to put together a mob tour. So yeah, that's coming in the future. Yeah, I'm coming to New York the end of September. Paulie Dibbs asking, any stories about dealing with the Greeks in the streets? Yeah, the Greeks, I had some dealings with the Greeks. Joseph, little Joe, my father's godson, had gotten in trouble at a Greek diner, and there was some Greek, and Cyril Perron, they were around. Cyril Perron, he was a captain in the Genovese family. He sat down with us and tried to straighten it out with them. We had some bookmaking business with them. And my father had an after-hour club with them up in Flushing, the Greeks. And my father had a Greek with him, Bobby Pold. He was a Greek. He had big connections with the Greek underground, with the Greek organized crime guys, so yeah, we definitely did. Thank you for the donation from Carmine. The question is, did any mobsters watch professional wrestling? Yeah, they did. You know, yeah, of course, it was comical. Yeah, I even watched it. I didn't like it, but my son liked it. I used to take my son to Madison Square Garden to see the big wrestling. I took him to see everybody wrestle. Guys used to come with us. I took him to see The Undertaker, Hulk Hogan, everybody, and even Tommy Flash was in the wrestling business. We actually had a wrestler with us that passed away. Yeah, so definitely they were into the wrestling, without a doubt. JPS, did I ever get into watches and jewelry, nice clothes? Yeah, all the time. Yeah, I love jewelry. I love watches. I love nice clothes. You know, or without a doubt. You know, back in the day, I was very high maintenance. Yes. Any Charlie Lucky stories? No, my father. You know, that was my. You know, when my father came around in the 50s, he was pretty much out of the country then. You know, my father did business with the guys that were left around, Genovese, Anastasia, you know, Costello. My father got taken in for shooting when Frank Costello got shot in the head in the hallway. My father was taken in for questioning because at first they thought it was my father. Then they realized it was the chin, but my father got taken in for that and questioned. And my father used to tell me all the time, I used to tell my father, it really wasn't you? And he goes, no, it wasn't me. And I would say, how do I know that? He goes, because if it was me, he would have been dead. So stuff like that. What is my favorite way of gambling? Sports, book, or horses? I mean, I like the racetrack. I love the racetrack. I love to spend the day at the racetrack, have a nice lunch, I love to bet horses. I love the action. I love the atmosphere of the racetrack. But I also like to bet a football game once in a while and hang out and watch a game with my friends, you know. But I think I prefer. I like the racetrack. I like the racetrack. I like spending the day at the racetrack. It says, who was in my crew and who did I run with to make money? Well, you know, I had a really good crew of kids, guys, you know, we were all around the same age. We all grew up together. They were all tough kids, stand-up kids. You know, we all made money. I had one partner, Frankie, my daughter's godfather. You know, I loved him. I still love him. Him and I made a ton of money together. We were partners. We split everything down the middle. We had a lot of things going with each other. He was very smart, very street smart, very intelligent guy, knew how to make money, a schemer. Yeah, so I would say out of all my friends and my crew, Frankie was the one I made the most money with. If I had to do it over again, what would I do differently? I would probably stood in school. I definitely, hopefully wouldn't have went to work for my father. Not that I didn't enjoy it in the beginning. It was great. I'm not going to say it was all bad because it wasn't. You know, it got bad, you know, and I did a lot of bad things in that life thinking that it was okay to do that, you know, which now today I know it wasn't. So I probably would have changed. I would have maybe would have liked to get an education and went a different route. Did I know Dominic DeMola from City Line? Hung out with Tito. I probably knew him. I knew all the rest of them. I probably did know him. I mean, the name doesn't ring a bell, but that you're talking about many, many, many years ago. I think you fitted me for my tuxedo. I probably did. I worked in my father-in-law's tuxedo stores when I got out of prison in 2004. So I may have definitely fitted you for a tuxedo. Did I ever see Secretariat? Yeah, I did. I saw a lot of great racehorses. I saw a lot of great horses race. I saw Secretariat for sure. Not when he won the Belmont Stakes, but I saw him in other races. Definitely. I saw a lot of great races. Don't forget, Aqueduct Racetrack was right in my neighborhood. I grew up in Aqueduct Racetrack. It was right in our backyard. So, you know, my whole neighborhood worked. When I was a kid growing up in Ozone Park, the whole neighborhood worked in two places. Either they worked in Kennedy Airport or Aqueduct Racetrack. Because back then, 20, 30,000 people went to Aqueduct Racetrack. On Saturdays, it was 40,000 people there. During the week, it was packed. So there was, the whole neighborhood worked in them places. Did my father ever meet Whitey Bulger? No, my father never, not to my knowledge. My father never met Whitey Bulger. There would be no reason for him to meet Whitey Bulger or anybody that ran with him. Not to my knowledge. No, I don't think so. Did I used to wear Chinese slippers or decks? No, no. In jail, I wore shower slippers. That's about it. Chinese slippers or decks? No, I don't believe I did. Decks maybe once in a while. The sneakers decks I wore. That's a funny question. Do I remember Frankie and Mindy Martinez from the track? Not really, no, but maybe I do know him. I don't know. Probably. A lot of people are asking me about names. I don't remember, like you're talking about many years ago. Like people are throwing names at me and did my father know this guy? Did my father know that guy? We knew so many people and names, from back then. Did I ever go to the World's Fair? Yeah, I went twice to the World's Fair in the 60s, 64. Yes, I went twice. That was the first time I went on in the Disney Pavilion. And I saw the piazza there. The Vatican shipped it over. I remember seeing people diving for pearls there. Yeah, I went twice. I went once with my father and mother and once with my Aunt Tessie. I went to it twice. Yeah, it was great. I have fond memories. I even have some pictures of us there hanging out at the World's Fair. Thank you, Sly, for the donation. Thanks for loving my content. Did I ever hung out with Sonny Black or Sonny Red? No, but my father knew them well. My father was very good friends with him. I know there's his son, Anthony, Anthony Bruno, I knew. He married Kathy Burke, but I didn't know them personally, but my father definitely was good friends with them. Any details on the Tony Plate murder? Yeah, Tony Plate was a very, very dear friend of ours. I knew him good. He used to come see my father every time he was in New York. I used to see him in Florida. He hung out at the Diplomat Hotel. He had the unfortunate pleasure of being indicted with O'Neill on a case in the 70s or 80s, maybe, I don't remember. And the only way for Neil to beat the case if he got severed, and the way he got severed was he had Tony Plate killed and Tony Plate disappeared. And that was a Gotti hit. Willie Boy and Angelo and John did that. It's funny because Willie Boy didn't cooperate. He cooperated, but he didn't give them the information about all that. But yeah, so that was a hit that was done in Florida. He disappeared, and unfortunately, he disappeared with some legitimate guy that he went to the meeting with, and they both disappeared. But he was a tough guy, Tony Plate. Did I know Gus Faracci? I didn't really know him. I met him a couple of times. I dismissed him in Arthur Kill prison. When I rolled into Arthur Kill, he had just gotten paroled out, but I knew Jerry Chili, who was around him. That's who's I believe that's whose daughter he was living with when he got killed, because they say he was living with a wise guy's daughter. I think it was Jerry Chili's daughter he was living with at the time when they killed him. But Jerry Chili he was around them. He was around the Bananas. And I was away with the guy one of the shooters. I was away with one of the shooters in Schuylkill, one of the kids that were on the hit team. Gus Faracci. Did I ever hang out at Protocols and Andy's? Of course I did. That must be somebody from Ozone Park. I did. Am I familiar with the beating Della Croce received at Luna Red? No, I never, I don't know about that. That's something, I got to look into that. What did my dad think about Carmine's Galante? He thought he was an octopus. He thought he wanted too much. He was a greedy bastard, and he got killed. My father never liked him. Did I ever hang out at the Canarsie Lounge? Yes, I did. I was there a few times, definitely. The Canarsie Lounge, that's Nicky Carraz's neighborhood. Did I know a Gambino guy named Willie Chiselchin? Not really, no, I don't, it doesn't ring a bell. Prince Diddy says you should make some My Father merch. I'm trying. I got some stuff out there. Have you ever been to a World Series at Yankee Stadium? Have I? I was at famous games. I was at the World Series game. Excuse me. I was at the World Series game that Reggie Jackson hit 3 home runs in '77. I was at that game, game 6, when he hit the 3 home runs. I was at the World Series in '76, '77. 96. I was at a lot of World Series games. I was at a lot of playoff games. I was there when Chambliss hit the home run in '76 to win the pennant. I was there when Leverix hit the home run in the 15th inning against Seattle, but then they went on. They lost that playoff game. But I was at many World Series games. I was at the game. I just came back from my honeymoon in '77 when I saw Reggie, and I went to that game that he hit the 3 home runs. Who was the most successful gangster that I know? I don't know, but I didn't know him, but the most successful gangster that I know was Carlo Gambino. I mean, who was more successful than him? He died of old age, a trillionaire, divorced for years and years and years. Who was more successful than him? Bruno's on Jamaica Avenue in 78th Street. Was that a mob spot? Bruno was a great guy. My father loved him. We spent many, many Sundays there with his kids, with Anthony, his son Anthony, his wife. It was great home place. It was like my kitchen. He made great baked clams. My father loved them. You know, we loved each other. That was a great place. I have many, many, many fond memories of Bruno's, many fond memories of Bruno's. So I think we're going to end it right here. I'm not, like I said, I'm sorry. I'm really not feeling too well. I have a little bit of a cold. But I would like to ask everybody out there. First of all, I want to thank everybody for tuning in. I'm going to try to do some more lives. That's a lot of fun for me. I love answering questions. But please subscribe to my channel. You know, go on the Reform Gangsters and hit the subscribe button. And if you can, please become a Patreon member. That would be great. You know, it's not that expensive. And you know, we could have more chit chats. So you know, so tune in. And let's have some fun. All right. So everybody have a good night, and thanks for tuning in.